All right, we've got one more day of this torture. And if you've survived through, what is this, the 5th video? Intro. This is all about men are lost. Here's a map out of the wilderness by Christine Emba, and it's an opinion piece from the Washington Post. This is the, let's see, we did the intro, we did the political right's way out. We did the left/mainstream, which was interesting that she put them both together, way out. And now we've got the conclusion, whatever the rest of this is. And yeah, so we've survived thus far. I think we can make it. Try to keep my cool this time. Welcome back to Far From Eden. Hi, you guys. It's so good to see you. Last time when we had the premiere, because I've been doing these as premieres, you guys were like, how are you typing and talking and doing this? I'm like, oh no, it's a premiere. So I videotaped it earlier, and now we're all watching it together so I can interact with you guys in the chat. So that's kind of how that works. I like that because then there's more interaction between us, and I'm still like too camera shy or too much stage fright to do a live. I've tried it a couple times and I was like, I don't like it. I'm too self-conscious. Anyway, so it's good to see you guys. I'm feeling rather well the last few days, feeling better, a bit stronger, so that's good. We have the unicorn back. Its name is Bosco. That's because this is not a unicorn because I'm not a unicorn. This is the blanket I have, and you know, it reminds me of my childhood horse, so that's why it's there. And you guys were so sweet because I took it down when people didn't understand, and then you guys were like, put it back if you like it. And I was like, okay, I will. So we're gonna get through this. This woman has basically insulted men all throughout this article. This is yet another example of a woman realizing that the men are sort of different nowadays, you know, but not getting it. Why don't the women get it? Why don't they understand what's going on with the men? I'll tell you. I mean, my first reaction was, bottom line, they don't care. Because when you care, you try to find out. And the thing is, I just remember this movie line where it's like, you cannot fill a cup that is already full. So if they think they already know what's going on with you guys, then they don't have to ask you and they don't have to listen. And they always think they already know. I mean, this lady, how long is this essay? I mean, this is what the 5th video, and it's like, we're still getting through it. And she's really said nothing that's accurate at all. Like, very rarely, but it's sort of like a broken clock is right twice a day. So that's why I'm reading through it, because it's not uncommon for women to have these sorts of ideas about what's wrong with men, or where are all the good men, or this or that. It's like, did you ever think that they might be reacting to a real situation in the world? Do you ever think that they might be sick and tired of having half their stuff taken from them if you're not happy? Did you ever think that they don't like being accused of being abusive because, I don't know, they said, I don't like this, or you shouldn't do that, or maybe they got angry? They're a human being, but you don't allow them any of that. Talking to the women. The women don't allow the men any of that without going, haha, got you. Well, you know what? One thing I have learned from paying attention and listening to men is that a man can only take so much. And then he's like, done. The women like to say he's going to get violent and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. It's like, you know, that's not, sure, there's a few bad people and that's kind of what they do, but that is not what the majority of men do. They go, it's like when you're a little kid and you're playing a game and the other people are cheating or being mean or whatever, you go, I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to play anymore. And they don't. They don't want to play anymore because it's not play, and they're having their, their lives are being destroyed. There are men that comment on this channel that were married for like 20, 30 years, and then all of a sudden she's just like, bye. And they can do this. I have made videos about how it's possible for a woman to flip the 180 and then all of a sudden be like, you don't even recognize this person you've built a life with, you raised children with, or you're in the middle of raising children with, and all of a sudden there's like, she's heartless the way she acts. She acts like she doesn't know you. And so these women who, I don't know, they have a gender studies degree or something, and then they want to talk about, well, what's wrong with men and what should men do about it? And I'm like, you don't know the first thing because you haven't asked them. You're not coming to men with empathy at all. You're assuming that men are kind of sociopathic, like they have no feelings or they don't care, and that's the opposite of the case. Just because they're not showing their emotions every which way does not mean that they don't care. And just because women do show emotions, it doesn't mean that we love more or we care more. It doesn't mean that. It means we throw a better fit. So, with that said, let's see. What is her name? I should know by now. Christine Emba, a columnist for the Washington Post. She's a member of the editorial board. And this is an opinion piece called Men Are Lost, Here's a Map Out of the Wilderness. And we are in the conclusion. There are two parts to the conclusion, but they're shorter than the other parts. So I was like, you know what? Let's just get through it. And let's get out and let's do something different tomorrow. I think that's a good plan. At least for all of our sanity. Because I can't take it anymore. Like, we can go back to something like this, but I can't take another day of this particular one. So, a new script for men. If the right has overcorrected to an old-fashioned and somewhat hostile vision of masculinity, many progressives have ignored the opportunity to sell men on a better vision of what they can be. Why do you think? Who are these people that are going to sell men on a better Okay. It's ridiculous. In the conversations I had with men for this essay, I kept hearing that many would still find some kind of normative standard of masculinity meaningful and useful, if only to give them a starting point from which to expand. It's so funny, because when she talked about the college freshmen she talked to, when she was describing the left and the mainstream's way out, one of you guys said, yeah, that guy didn't exist. So I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I don't know if any of these people exist that she says she talked to. I think that happened in her imagination. So I appreciate that comment, because I didn't consider that it was made up. Scott Galloway agrees. On his podcast and in his newsletter, the author, entrepreneur, and professor at New York University's Stern Business School has made a specialty of talking about the crisis of unattached, rudderless young men and helping them aspire to more. Interesting. I'm interested in who this guy is. I've not heard of him. Let me know in the comments if you guys have. On a Zoom call with me from his home in London, Prof. G, as in Professor G, as he's known on his, I don't know what that word is. I feel dumb. Eponymous show. I think she uses a thesaurus. Anyway, eponymous show, reclined, biceps bulging from his fitted shirt as he clasped his hands behind his shaven head. Periodically, he unfolded to push the snout of his large dog out of the frame. Every time she writes this way about how they looked and stuff, it reminds me of a long time ago, once in a while, when I would buy like a Cosmopolitan magazine or something like that, and there was an article, that is always how they were written. And it always sounded, it's off-putting to me when they describe the scene that way. I'm like, am I reading a novel or is this an article? What are we doing? But okay. All right, so we've got a visual of this guy who may or may not exist. She did give him a name though, Scott Galloway. So he's supposed to be a podcaster. Quote, I mean, there are certain attributes around masculinity that we should embrace. Men think about sex more than women, use that as motivation to be successful and meet women. Men are more impulsive. Men will run out into a field and get shot up to think they're saving their buddies. I don't know that I would call that impulsive. I'd call that they're more likely to take risks. Men will run out into a field and get shot up to think they're saving their buddies. How about men are more heroic? Men have a stronger sense of brotherhood, of sacrificial love. Those are ways I would describe it, but okay. He was careful to point out that he doesn't believe that women wouldn't do as much, but that the distributions are different. Well, no, they wouldn't do that. We're different. Quote, where I think this conversation has come off the tracks is where being a man is essentially trying to ignore all masculinity and act more like a woman. And even some women who say that, they don't want to have sex with those guys. They may believe they're right and think it's a good narrative, but they don't want to partner with them. That's true. But I will add something to that he can't say without being canceled. They probably want to cancel me, but I will tell you that we women, we don't know what we want. We will say, I want him to be emotionally available, and I want him to understand my feelings, and I want to da 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 da. No, you don't. You really don't. You don't. You need the guy to be unflappable, because when they get emotional and when they are like us, I think this is my theory. I think it sort of triggers something in us that feels unsafe. So you may say, oh, I want my man to be in touch with his emotions. No, you don't. Yes. Do we want them to feel? Yes, we do. But as far as being reactive and emotional the way we are, that gets scary, because it seems like they're fearful and like something big is gonna, rock them. And we don't want that. And I don't know that it's conscious with most women. I don't think that it is, but I think that it's true. And because at the end of the day, we are still biological creatures. We women are still physically weaker, and there's part of our brains that knows that. So that's why, we jump at stuff more and men don't. We're wired differently. So we have different needs in that way, but women have been trained to think that that's a weakness that we shouldn't have, that it shouldn't be like that. But you know what's not a weakness? The strength to trust fully in your man, to put your full faith and trust in him, and know that he has your best interest at heart. And so you can follow him and you can submit to him and you can obey him, because he would never do anything that wouldn't be good for you, even if you don't see it, if you disagree with it. So if they're all sort of emotional and like our girlfriends, it might be okay in the beginning, but honestly, that isn't what we want, even when we say that's what we want. And that's so hard for men to, figure out, and it's a minefield to walk through. So yeah, he's right that those aren't the men that we are attracted to. It's just who society has said is safe, because they won't keep us chained in the kitchen or whatever. But she says, I, a heterosexual woman, cringe in recognition. So Miss Emba, she recognizes that. Okay. Quote, and so men should think, I want to take advantage of my maleness. I want to be aggressive. I want to set goals, go hard at it. I want to be physically really strong. I want to take care of myself. All good. All very good. It's very positive. It's also safe, isn't it? Because he's not really saying anything about the women or what the real problem is. Galloway leaned into the screen. Oh yeah, we're on Zoom. Quote, "My view is that, for masculinity, a decent place to start is garnering the skills and strength that you can advocate for and protect others with. If you're really strong and smart, you will garner enough power, influence, kindness to begin protecting others. That is it. Full stop. Real men protect other people." I'm not going to disagree with anything he says. I tend to, if a man is saying it and he's saying something about men, I've trained myself. I'm not going to disagree. I don't see anything to disagree with there. You guys tell me. You guys are the men. Reeves, in our earlier conversation, had put it somewhat more subtly. Quote, I try to raise my boys, he has 3, to have the confidence to ask a girl out, if that's their inclination, the grace to accept no for an answer, and the responsibility to make sure that either way, she gets home safely. That seems like good back when women were women. His recipe for masculine success echoed Galloway's proactiveness, agency, risk-taking, and courage, but with a pro-social cast. Again, that's all well and good, but we are not taking into consideration what women have become and how they are behaving. And you just can't. You guys, you can't. It's impossible for men to be so good that it fixes the women. I feel like that's where it's going. Like, hey men, if you were just good enough, the situation would be fine. Like, you know what? These men can work out every day and they can do all this stuff and they can save all the people from the fire and do all this. It isn't going to change what's going on with the women. So, tell me if you think I'm wrong. This tracked with my intuitions about what good masculinity might look like. The sort that I actually admire. Nice. She gets a little digs in there. The sort that women I know find attractive, but often can't seem to find at all. It also aligns with what the many young men I spoke with would describe as aspirational once they finally felt safe enough to admit they did in fact carry an ideal of manhood with its own particular features. Yeah, and why is it they don't feel safe to talk about this, miss? Oh yeah, it's that elephant in the room. We're not gonna notice it. Physical strength came up frequently, as did a desire for personal mastery. They cited adventurousness, leadership, problem solving, dignity, and sexual drive. Excuse me, but other than the sexual drive part, wouldn't that be similar to sort of the Jordan Peterson recipe, which was horrible and evil and all the rest of it earlier in this article? I don't know. None of these are negative traits, but many men I spoke with felt that these archetypes were unfairly stigmatized. Men were too assertive, too boisterous, too horny. Excuse me, but she was literally acting like those things were negative traits just earlier in the article. Do I have amnesia? I know I said I wasn't gonna lose it. That didn't happen. Oh, I'm just peeking at like, what? Okay. But in fact, most of these features are scaffolded by biology. Darn biology, just can't argue with it. Ugh. The liberal arts will try though. All are associated with testosterone, the male sex hormone. It's not an excuse for boys will be boys style bad behavior, but realistically, these traits would be better acknowledged and harnessed for pro-social aims than stifled or downplayed. ignoring obvious truths about human nature, even general ones, fosters the idea that progressives are out of touch with reality. Wow. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, that is correct. However, I have to go back to it's not an excuse for boys will be boys style bad behavior. I'm sorry. Boys will be boys, and it's not bad behavior. Boys will be boys came about when it's like little boys, like kindergarten or like that sort of age, just start to like get rough and tumble, and they're kind of experimenting with the hierarchy. And women get real uncomfortable with that. They're like, stop bullying each other, stop fighting, blah, 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 blah. And then some people were like, well, boys will be boys. Like, that's who they are. And that got sort of hijacked into, that's bad. So on one hand, she's like, well, this is how men are, and that's a good thing. And then on the other hand, oh, boys will be boys, bad behavior. I'm like, oh, Lord, we got so close. Anyway. Yeah, that shocked me that she had, that progressives are out of touch with reality. No comment. The essentialist view that it's in men's nature to be brave, stoic, and in charge, while women remain docile, nurturing, and submissive, would be dire news for social equality and for the vast numbers of individuals who don't fit those stereotypes. Who said that being docile, nurturing, and submissive was not equal to being brave, stoic, and in charge? I didn't say that. I don't think that women are less than in value as far as like human like worth. Running society? Sure. But as far as worth, equality that way? No. You're the one saying that what women are naturally is unequal. That's what it's right there in black and white. They're writing it and they don't even see it. Biology isn't destiny. No comment. God. She makes it too easy. I'm like, yeah, the progressives are very much like biology and destiny. Man, woman, There is no one script for how to be a woman or a man. There is a script. It's called the Bible. But despite a push for some advocates to make everything from bathrooms to birthing gender neutral, most people don't actually want a completely androgynous society. And if a new model for masculinity is going to find popular appeal, it will depend on putting the distinctiveness of men to good use in whatever form it comes. Yeah, I've been doing this too long. I catch that. Put it to good use. Yeah, you like to put men to good use. That's what they're for, usefulness. Like, that's what you're basically saying. Oh, men aren't useful the way they're acting, so we need to change them so they're more useful to us. They reveal who they are. Every time. Quote, femininity or masculinity are a social construct that we get to define, Galloway concluded. They are, loosely speaking, behaviors we associate with people born as men or born as women, or attributes more common among people born as men or as women. But the key is that we still get to fill that vessel and define what those attributes are, and then try to reinforce them with our behavior and our views and our media. And I will just take you right back to when she said, fosters the idea that progressives are out of touch with reality. Yeah, like just now. Wow. What would creating a positive vision of masculinity look like? Recognizing distinctiveness, but not pathologizing it. Yeah, like she did earlier in this article and several times. Finding new ways to valorize it and tell a story that is appealing to young men and socially beneficial. Socially beneficial. Beneficial to women in their agenda? And the state? Because that's the same thing. Rather than ceding ground to those who would warp a perceived difference into something ugly and destructive. We're not doing that. We aren't the ones doing that. The left always accuses the other side of doing what they're doing. A bit more than 20 years ago, anthropologist David D. Gilmour published Manhood in the Making: Cultural Concepts of Masculinity, a cross-cultural study of manliness around the world. He found that almost all societies had a concept of real, true, or adult manhood that was seen as a valuable and indispensable ideal, but masculinity had to be earned and proved. Yeah, it's weird that it's universal, isn't it? That's weird. It's almost like there's a thing that makes a man, and a thing that makes a woman. That's weird. Very inconvenient. Men achieved it by providing for their families and broader society, by protecting their tribe and others, and by successfully procreating. In the modern moment, however, all three of these goals seem less celebrated and further from reach because of the women. Young men who disappear into online forums, video games, or pornography see none of the social or personal rewards of meeting these goals, and their loneliness and despair suggest how painful it has been to lose track of this ideal. It's because they are walking away, because there are no real women. They can be as masculine as ever, and it won't matter when the women aren't women. When women are just trying to be like men, it's like, that's fine. They're not trying to stop you. They just don't want to marry you. So, The other feature of Gilmour's findings was that boys generally had to be ushered into manhood and masculinity by other men. And that seems to be a key link missing today. Single moms. When I talk to my friends, I can literally count on one hand the number of friends I have who have a good relationship with their dad and actually have learned things from him, said Reynolds, the Ivy League grad student. The Ivy League grad student mulling the reasons students were turning to him for advice. Yeah, I remember him from before. Part of the thing is that that's just an ongoing societal problem. Goodness gracious. Many of the young men I talked to for this essay told me they had troubled relationships with their fathers or no father figure in their lives at all. She should have done a comparison of like the ones that had dads and the ones that didn't, because there's a difference. The data bear this out. Since 1960, the percentage of boys living apart from their biological fathers has nearly doubled from 17% to 32%. I think it's higher than that. And 1960, I think it's more like 1964. Wasn't it? Lyndon Johnson? Was it 64? I think. Not sure. It was around then. It was Lyndon Johnson's bill. War on poverty, all that business, incentivizing the women to, get the fathers out of the household and get cash and prizes. As Reeves told me, if you're growing up in a single parent household and you go to a typical public school and typical medical system, there's a decent chance that you will not encounter a male figure of authority until middle school or later. Not your doctor, not your teachers, no one else around you. What does that feel like? I remember reading that Reeves had said that, and I've often thought of it over the years when I think about you guys. If you were raised without a father and then you're raised with your mother and your female teachers and everybody's a woman around you, how are you supposed to learn what being a man is? Especially when you're constantly told that things about being a man that are coming naturally to you are wrong. It's impossible. It's just impossible. And while progressives have embraced the rise of single-parent and female-led homes, or at least assume them to be inevitable as a new status quo, it's still clear that male role models help boys especially to thrive. Hey, ding, 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 ding. She said another thing that was right. In 2018, Harvard economist Raj Chetty published a groundbreaking study on race and economic opportunity. Among the findings was that persistent income inequality between black and white people was disproportionately driven by poor outcomes among black boys. However, those boys who grew up in neighborhoods where there were more fathers present, even if not their own, had significantly higher chances of upward mobility. It's almost like having a father in the home makes the whole family more successful. Well, it's almost like the man has his family's best interest at heart and knows the way to lead them to that. The data doesn't lie with that. Just doesn't. Pesky data. I never know if it's data or data, honestly. I don't know. Quote, ultimately, Reynolds mused, it's about relationships and finding older men who, they're not flashy, they're not important necessarily, but they actually are living virtuous lives as men, and then being able to then learn from them. Yeah, exactly. Not an Andrew Tate type. It's fine if that helps a guy. I'm glad. I want whatever it takes to help a man, but I think it's important that the person that they're looking up to has character, has something that anchors them. Well, for me, that's God and holding true to the true ideals of Christianity. But there has to be something, there has to be a root, because you can lift weights and you can, be a stud and have sports cars, but that isn't going to sustain you, through a diagnosis, through a loss, through really hard times. You need something deeper. Just my opinion, and I'm just a woman, so it seems true to me, but at the same time, I'm not going to tell you guys who you should look up to or how you should, improve. It's not my job. The cultural shift is one reason why the crisis of masculinity might take time to fix, because fostering positive representations of manhood requires relationships and mentorship on an individual level in a way that can't be mandated. Mandated? Like the government? Good God. Even aspirational public representations of men are scarce on the ground. Political figures who in the past might have been obvious models, Barack Obama, say, or Senator Mitt Romney. Okay, I'm gonna get a migraine from that. Are in our moment polarizing. Yeah, and that's both not great examples. Not at all. I'm sorry. I don't want to be political. I mean, I want to be political. I want to be political really bad. But that's not what this channel's about. And I don't want to get lost in the weeds when there's something that brings us all together that we all have to focus on. We do not need to be fighting about Barack Obama or Mitt Romney. That would just be stupid. And that would be exactly what they want. And then we'd all be acting like women. And please, I already have to have a woman brain. I can't stand it anymore. Oh my goodness. Fathers in popular culture are still often stereotyped as ineffective or idiots. Yeah, like every single comedy, situational comedy, like Everybody Loves Raymond and King of Queens and just all this. The dad was always a doofus. Always. Family Guy. That's what I grew up with. New archetypes are forming. The soft daddies of cartoons such as Big Mouth and Bob's Burgers, any role actor Nick Offerman takes on, but there's still rarities. I am not familiar with those, but I have a feeling I would not agree. because soft daddies? No, that's not, no. And the everyday men most secure in their masculinity usually aren't the ones pronouncing it in the public square. No, they're not. They're not like women. Like, I am woman, hear me roar. Oh my Lord, stupid. Some policy interventions, government, woohoo, it's always the answer, isn't it? We're gonna make more rules. What did I say? It's like a teacher. These women want to be like, you boys aren't doing what you should do. We're going to make more rules. Goodness gracious. Okay, calm down. Every time it's the state, Some policy interventions can increase the number of role models within communities, according to experts. Programs such as Boys to Men Community Foundation in Chicago offer one-on-one mentorship. That seems like it's going well. Chicago's such a great city. I thought about Chicago and I was like, one thing they have is a lot of upstanding, young men. What are they talking about? I mean, I'm glad they have it, but come on. And nearly every thinker on the masculinity problem advocates getting more men into classrooms from kindergarten up, not just for their effects as teachers, but also because they're more likely to serve as coaches, especially of boys' sports. And you know what also? They're likely to be falsely accused of a bunch of stuff, so they don't want to touch it. They don't want to go near it. Why? Because somebody's going to say, oh my God, he da-da-da-da-da-da, and your career's over, everything's over. Remember wasn't he the principal of an elementary school? It's so bad I don't remember his name. But he was the principal of an elementary school, and his wife accused him of being abusive, called the cops on him. He was not abusive, called the cops on him. Because the cops came out, he lost his job. Everybody, thought he was a bad guy. He got arrested. It's terrible. And he went to Disneyland, climbed up the top of the parking garage, and he checked to see if he could fly. You gotta be creative when you're on YouTube to say different things. But yeah, there was a man in a good leadership role. He was well loved by the people in the school, the other parents. But as soon as she said, "Hey, you're being abusive," life was over. Literally. Awful. So yeah, they're not rushing to go be teachers and principals and things like that because you just think they're predators all the time. And you're constantly telling them, don't do this, don't do that, this is how you be a man. They can't win, so they're walking away from all of it. And I can't blame them. Anybody that can blame them, come talk to me about it. But as Galloway put it, the change will need to come from the bottom up, from everyday men who notice the crisis of identity hitting their younger counterparts and can put themselves forward to help. Quote, 90% of this, if not 95%, is on us, is on older men, is on society, Galloway said. To realize this is a problem that warrants investment and attention, and it's on young men themselves to take responsibility and embrace masculinity and redefine it. But why? Why should they? Why should they try? What are they doing it for? They used to do it for a woman and family, and that is no longer an option because there are no wives. So, what's the point? That is something that still hasn't been addressed, and we have this much left, and we still haven't talked about it. It's all the men. The men are having a problem. The men have identity problem. The men need to do this. The men shouldn't do this. Da, 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 da. And we haven't talked about why. For all their problems, and they don't have an identity. I mean, yeah, the younger ones do, but it's only because the women have made it so the older men cannot be men. A path forward. For all their problems, the strict gender roles of the past did give boys a script for how to be a man. Yeah. But if trying to smash the patriarchy has left a vacuum in our ideal of masculinity, it also gives us a chance at a fresh start, an opportunity to take what is useful from models of the past and repurpose it for boys and men today. Typical. They want to destroy it and then build something else back that's not natural. That's not good. Trying to smash the patriarchy. The patriarchy starts with God, man, woman, child. I have figured out that that's what they want to smash, because they say, oh, that's oppressive, that's bad. But those things, God and man, they only wanted what's best for everybody else, and that's all they've worked for, particularly in the United States. Founded on freedom, liberty, prosperity, a high trust society, etc. But let's tear it all down. Let's just tear it all down. And yeah. We can find ways to work with the distinctive traits and powerful stories that already exist. Risk-taking, strength, self-mastery, protecting, providing, procreating. We can recognize how real and important they are, and we can attempt to make them pro-social. Make them communist? That's what I heard. Did you guys hear that? That's what I heard. To help not just men, but also women, and to support the common good. Ah! Told ya! There it is. Haha. Common good. Common good. No. It's not what they mean. When they say common good, that sounds good. It sounds like it's better for everybody. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Influencers on the right have found an audience by recognizing and exaggerating these tropes. What else is an incel but a stymied procreator building an identity out of his failures? No, it isn't. That is not what it is. I hate that when they are nasty and use incel as a slur. I've talked about it in other videos. These men are not bad men. They're just not, and I'm sick and tired of these women insulting them. Who are Tucker Carlson's tire-flipping civilizational guards but the protector? Made absurd. Why is it absurd? Why? I'd love to ask her that. Right-wing political figures such as Josh Hawley have clearly latched on to many men's desire to provide, but their solutions are often 1950s throwbacks that depend on castigating women for providing for themselves. No, I think they're fine with women providing for themselves. Go ahead, go, do whatever. They just don't want you as a person in a relationship. They might have fun with you, but that's not a wife. That's a career woman. That's fine. Go be a career woman. It's okay for men to not want that. It is okay, more than okay, it is good for men to want a wife. They don't want to force her. Men don't want a forced relationship. They don't want a forced relationship. Same as God. God was like, look, you have free will. You don't have to love me. This is my son. You don't have to accept him. You don't even have to believe. You don't have to. You make your own decision. He doesn't force us into being good or sinless or to love him or be in a relationship or be with him forever. He doesn't force it. God doesn't force it, and men don't want to do that either. Yeah, are there bad dudes? Yeah, there's like serial killers and stuff. Like there might be like a kidnapper and he's like, that's not the majority. Men don't want a forced relationship. They want a wife who wants to be a wife. They want a mother of their children who wants to be the mother of their children. They don't want to take you and like I'm not going to allow you to have a career and I'm going to force you to clean and cook. And they don't want that. They would rather walk away. And that proves that that's not what they want, because men are stronger than us. If they wanted to force it, they could. Hello? You think an army of women's gonna stand up again? Listen, if men wanted to do that, they would do that. They protect us from the bad ones that would want something like that. It's ridiculous. Okay. Oh, what critics miss is that if there were nothing valid at the core of these constructs, they wouldn't command this sort of popularity. True story. People need codes for how to be human. And when those aren't easily found, they'll take whatever is offered, no matter what else is attached. I'm not even going to touch it. For the left, there's room to elaborate on visions of these qualities that are expansive, not reductive, that allow for many varieties of masculinity and don't deny female value and agency. I mean, I'm not denying female value. I didn't insult being docile, submissive, agreeable, or whatever the other adjective she used for us. It's on some other page. But I mean, I don't think that that's negative. So, whatever. If you feel like you have to go and step into what men have historically done to validate yourself and see yourself as being valuable, well, I don't know. Maybe you women are the ones that have a disconnect with who you're supposed to be. Could that be it? I think it is. Okay. Home stretch. In my ideal, the mainstream could embrace a model that acknowledges male particularity and difference, but doesn't denigrate women to do so. They don't. It's a vision of gender that's not androgynous, but still equal, and relies on character, not just biology. And it acknowledges that certain themes, protector, provider, even procreator, still resonate with many men and should be worked with, not against. Okay, so here's my, you know what this is? Earlier today, for fun, I watched a couple Kevin Samuels episodes. Well, actually, it was like shorter snippets where he kind of tells the women what they need to hear. And that reminded me of it. It reminded me of it because, choosing my words carefully, they want the traditional man, right? They want him to protect, they want him to provide, they want him to be a father, they want, right? They want all those things. But they don't want to be anything. They don't want to have to bring anything to the table. They don't want to be required to contribute something. They don't want, women don't want to sacrifice. They don't want, that's what I'm talking about. Women don't want to, bring, if they're bringing protector, provider, procreator, all of these things, what are the women bringing? That isn't just self-serving. Because all those things, protector, provider, procreator, have to do with other people. Have to do with benefiting other people. So what are, the 3 or 4 things that women are going to be and do that benefit other people? The point is they're not. They want all the benefits of a traditional man and none of the responsibilities or requirements of a traditional woman. And they get mad when this traditional man that they're describing actually wants something in return. They'll call that, controlling or whatever, and he doesn't even want to control anybody. He just would like to have a woman that had a similar vision, that trusted him, that appreciated him, that wanted to be the mother of his children, didn't want to stick the kids in daycare, and go chase some career because that's more important to her than children. it's fine. I think a lot of the men are like, look, I'm not trying to say you can't have a career. I'm not trying to say you have to be a mother. It's just, I don't want to marry you or be in a relationship with you if you are not that person. And that is, it's fair. And because there are not women who want to prioritize family and don't want to, be incentivized to throw it all away and destroy everything and take the kids and take his money and destroy his life, they're done. And it's their right. It doesn't mean they're bad when they say, look, I don't want to play anymore. I'm out. If these are the rules that you guys insist upon, if this is what you're going to do, if this is what I stand to lose and this is what I stand to gain, no thank you. No thank you. And man, the women, it angers them, it confuses them. It's like, just what's so hard to understand? I don't know. They just can't listen. I mean, you can't learn anything if you already think you know everything. Anyway, we got through it, you guys. We succeeded. Did you guys see earlier today that Michael Knowles and Pearl had a debate? I caught sort of, I don't know, the last part of it. I don't know, the last 10, 15 minutes. And I just was like, ooh, I kind of was like, I wish I was debating him. Because I would have brought up some other things. I would have challenged him in places that she did not. And he left these openings, and I was like, oh, I could really challenge him and ask him, well, sir, if you think a prenup is destroying the sacrament of marriage, and you think it has to be done by government contract because, quote, it needs to be public as per, God's, the way God tells us his commands. What does it mean when government says, well, no fault divorce? Didn't the government destroy the sacrament? So how can you participate in the government's idea of marriage when they have no fault divorce? They've already said marriage doesn't exist. So how can you make the argument that you need to have a government contract when government's like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything, you can just break it. And then she could take your stuff, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I think participating in that would be against God's commands. That's what I would have said that to him. It would have been the little Protestant girl talking to the Catholic, and that would have been fine. Instead of Pearl, who's kind of like a lukewarm Catholic, trying to have a conversation with Michael Knowles about whether or not prenups are okay. And it just, no shade to Pearl. She's young, she's done a lot. She's brought some awareness, and I think that's good. But I really was like, ooh, if I ever get the opportunity, that would be amazing. I'd be so nervous, but I watched it today, and I was like, I could do that. I think I could. I would want to go in there and stand and say the things that I would challenge him, and I would say, Michael Knowles, how can you sit there and say these things and be and lack so much empathy for your brothers? Not everybody met their wives when they were in elementary school. Not everybody has the money and the status and the looks and everything that you have. If that all went away, are you 100% sure that, what does he call her? Oh, he has a cute name for her. Are you sure she would stay? I would ask, does she have a career? And I would ask about that, and I would ask him what he thinks about that. Maybe they went over that earlier in the interview, I don't know, but I would definitely go there. I would talk about female nature. I would say the things, but anyway, I want to mention that to you guys. But anyway, so I guess that's sort of like something I aspire to, is to talk to some of these guys and really be able to challenge them in ways that they aren't going to see coming. So a girl can dream. So Little Miss Lola did kind of distract me. You guys should be proud of me. I didn't even say anything. She was over here drinking water, and I was like, She knows. It's the time when she's usually like, oh, it's time to go out. So that's my cue to say, don't forget to hit like, because I keep forgetting because I'm too excited to talk to you guys. So that concludes that essay. And that is our video for Saturday. And I hope that you guys had a good day today. I hope that you know that I appreciate you. Even if I don't know you, I appreciate that you're a man and you matter and we need you. Even if you don't see it right now, you don't know why, trust me, you're here, we need you. There are days when I don't know. I'm like, why am I here? Why do I have to fight this stupid multiple sclerosis? Why am I here? And I mean, days now aren't as dark as they have been in the past. But you just keep going, well, you breathe in, you breathe out. You just keep going. You don't know how you're affecting other people. You don't know what might happen the following day, the following year, or 10 years from now. So you just keep going. You just keep going. And I love our community that we're building here in the comments. I love when I see you guys like saying, you know, stay strong, brother. Oh my gosh, it just it warms my heart. I will get choked up. It's beautiful. I love that, because there are men on this channel in the comments, you know, putting their heart out there and saying what's happened to them and what these women have done and what they're going through and how alone they are. And that's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to admit it. It's hard to say it out loud. It's hard to write it down. And then when another man comes in and then shares his story, because you guys relate to each other in a way that I cannot, because I'm a woman. It's so important that you guys support one another. It is so important. You're at different stages of all of this. You've had different experiences, but it's the same sort of, you know, it's sort of like you've all been in a war and you've been blown up and shot and all the rest of it. And it's like your injuries are different, your experiences are different, but you're all war torn. It's the same, in the same battle. So I'm really glad when you guys are there for one another. I know what it means to you guys. And to think, you know, I don't want to say it's the author of this, but to think that there's people like that want to shut channels like this down, you know. I'm like, really? You want to change masculinity? You want to tell us a path forward? And you're going to say, you know, that this is like hateful and everything? Couldn't be farther from the truth. So, thanks for hanging out. I love you guys. Take some time for yourselves. Do something that feeds your soul. You know, find beauty and goodness. It's there. It is there. And it's your nature to look for it, because you're made in the image of God, whether you believe it or not. I know that it's true. So, take care, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good evening.